All right. Welcome back to a Whole Lot of Holtz. Here we've got Rick Holtz, as always, Colleen Holtz, as usually.
That's
And,
usually I like that.
And I'm Avery. I'll be reading some of the questions here, and I help out with marketing. You'll be hearing different voices every once in a while, but it's my turn. All right. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Board and Log Co. You guys are opening up a new business. Sounds like it's a lumber mill. Probably
Yes.
going to be called Board and Log Co. Tell us a little bit about that and what you've got planned for it.
Can't even say it. Board and Log Company is going to be an experiential retail experience, but also a lumber mill. So we will be milling logs. We'll also be felling all of our own trees or sourcing our trees from local developments. We've already started that. So when they're developing a community or a subdivision, or they're clearing land to do some form of development, we take those trees, mill them into boards, and sell those. And so we are taking a different spin on it. We're going to create a retail experience where you can come in and, if you want, we're gonna have a little coffee shop in there. You can get you a cup of coffee. We got a lounge. You can kind of sit up in a lounge and look at some cool books. Get on your iPad, do the typical coffee thing. Or if you want, you can go into the middle room where we have a lot of our lumber situated, and we'll have a window into our production, and you can actually watch all of the logs being sawed and milled into boards, and just sit there and sip your coffee and watch. It's going to be a kind of a cool experience, just a place to connect with people.
So this is kind of an interesting idea, a mill with a coffee shop. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with that idea? What were some of the things that made that, at least connected those dots, and something that made you want to actually pursue this physically?
Yeah.
Because he always has a cup of coffee in his hand.
I do love coffee. So, in fact,
It's
my
the
wife's trying
things
to
that he
limit me right
loves.
now. She's trying to limit me in my coffee intake and she told me this morning I was leaving the house, and she's like, "You're just gonna have to cut back your coffee intake because you're looking like an old man, just walking around with coffee everywhere you go." Because now I carry a thermos of coffee, like get a whole pot in the morning, and I fill my thermos and I just drink it all
And
day
then he
long.
leaves his cups everywhere.
Yeah, I brought home 4 or 5.
But that's how we came up with the coffee shop. It's because he loves the wood and the coffee.
Yeah, and it's kind of a weird combo. We had a guy come into we're not open yet, but our doors are open, and so we had a guy come in just stopped and came in, and he's like, he came in and sat down, he's like, "What is this going to be, this Board and Log?" I said, "Well, it's going to be a coffee shop and a mill." And he just gave me this funny look. He says, "That's weird." He's like, "Why coffee and lumber?" I was like, "Well, because I like coffee." And I said, "And I like lumber." And so, another reason is that, Holtz Leather Company, we started a millworks early on when my dad retired from the Marine Corps. We incorporated my dad into doing some turning, just kind of keep him busy when in his retirement life. Of course, now we keep him way too busy. He turns an enormous amount of pins. And anyways, lumber just kind of grew out of that, and we started making lots of different products out of domestic hardwoods, walnut and maples and all that type of stuff. And as board prices started climbing, it really made it difficult for us to produce our products. In fact, we had to take down some of our products because they were just getting too expensive to produce. So we were looking around our farm, and I was like, we were clearing a back pasture where we have some land for our cows, and we needed to expand and get some more grass. And so we took out some trees, and I was like, I just can't burn them, and I just did not want to burn these trees. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to mill them. And we ended up buying a mill and testing it, and I just really loved the process. And I'm like, we could do this, and we could start bringing back a lot of our wood products for Holtz, and then also sell the lumber, and just kind of really start blending all of these two brands together, because our heart is really handcrafted, handmade quality products, and this really goes hand in hand with what we love.
So we've noticed that you've been a little bit AWOL from normal
Gosh.
Holtz stuff for the past few months. I'm assuming you guys have been working hard on the mill. Tell us a little bit about what that's been looking like. And I'm actually curious about some of the details as far as, like, do you guys know, like, hey, we're waking up early, we got to get here, we got to start doing this. Do you have? I mean, I'm sure you've got a vision for what you're wanting it to look like, but what has that actually been like?
So the undertaking of the mill has been, honestly, it's been really hard. This has probably been one of the hardest startups that I've done, because I've I've done a bad thing is like I've put this constraint on me to have it done within a certain time frame. And so I've been really cranky at home, because I'm like, it is a big process. So like we own the land. If we're felling the trees, we are hand selecting our trees, being very careful to preserve. So we're looking for the trees that are dying or are not going to make it. We found a beautiful maple that was already on the ground, this huge maple that had died and fallen over, and we pulled that down and cut it open. It's absolutely beautiful. And but no, the day-to-day, it's very intensive. You got to think about it. We're taking a lot of operations, like typically in timber, you have a company that does the clearing and the cutting and brings the logs to a mill. And then the mill is a different operation. They take those logs, they cut them into boards, they put them in a kiln to dry the boards, and then they sell it to another company. So like they're selling it to your Lowe's, your Home Depot, or your local lumber store. And so there's another process. And we're taking all of these and we're condensing them into one business where we're actually doing it from start to finish, and then incorporating a coffee shop inside of that with a lounge experience to where we want to connect with our community and be involved with connecting people who are like-minded. So the list that we have it's very big, and I didn't anticipate having so many. Like, it's 3 businesses in one, really, and so it's a lot of work. Like we had to develop a way. I didn't know how to cut down a tree. I had to learn how to fell trees, and so I had to teach myself how to.
It's very scary.
Yeah,
when you think about it.
Colleen gave me limits. She's like, "All right, you can cut trees this big," and I'm like, "Babe, that isn't even going to work on the mill." I was like, "I got to cut some trees," and so it's been fun too because my boys are very integral in this business. Like they are in it. My boys love wood, all things wood. Every time they see a piece of wood, they're like, "Dad, cut that and put it over here." So it's like we're cutting down trees and they're cutting off things to put on their lathe and to turn and all this type of stuff. And I'm like, "Boys, focus over here." And but it's been so much fun because our conversations to and from work are all about lumber and about wood and about what they love and what they saw, and they're coming up with ideas about doing things this way or that way, or what product we can make out of this. I mean, my boys are already making tables. They have legs and tables and starting to put together some beautiful tables, and we're really excited about that. Just more excited about the family element. I know I've been extremely cranky, and Colleen can attest to that. I think just being a family and doing it together has been very beneficial, and learning the process. They're seeing their dad go through some frustrating
highs and lows.
I
would say
failures.
that this startup, he's like, this might be my last one.
Actually, I think I told her that.
We'll see.
I told her, I said, "I'm not doing another startup. I don't want to ever do another startup again. This one's about taking the breath out of me." But it's expensive too. This was probably one of our more expensive startups, actually most expensive startup we've ever done. It's a lot of equipment we had to buy. We built our own kilns out of containers.
I'm learning a lot.
And I put all the lumber into the kiln, and we keep delaying our start. It's kind of like a joke now. It's like, when are you opening? It's like, we were opening May 3rd, and then I was like, I gotta have more time. June 3rd, June 10th. June 17th. It's now June 17th, but it may be June 27th. I mean, because I put all the lumber into the kiln, we planed it, we put it on the racks, and it was 2% over. So it all had to go back into the kiln. And I called Colleen, and I'm just like banging my head against the shop counter that I built. And I'm just like, this is driving me insane. But there have been so many setbacks and so many hurdles. But it's been good for my kids to see these setbacks and hurdles, because failures are a part of success. And it's been a lot of failures in this, but a lot of high moments too. Like when we cut on our double-sided 30-inch planer for the first time, and we started feeding boards through, and it was like, it's working, and it's like just so exciting. It was one of those mile-high moments. And then we had other moments where our dust collector that I bought on Craigslist blew dust everywhere, and it's like, that's not gonna work, so I had to buy a different dust collector. But it's been like this every single day. I could tell stories and stories. So yes, I've been absent from Holtz, and I've been really struggling with that too, because I love Holtz, and I'm going to work really hard to tie these two brands together to really make them coincide together. So much like I think of a Pottery Barn and Williams and Sonoma. It's like they're very complementary brands. Or Ralph Lauren has Double RL and all these different brands that are complement. So these will complement each other very well once we get it all up and rolling.
So, for those listening, I'm sure there's a lot of people kind of wondering, like, ooh, if is this something that I would be interested in? Who are the people? I guess who are the? I'm gonna scrap that. Who are the customers that you're looking for Board and Log Co? Who are the people that you think would benefit most from this lumber? Is this contractors?
Yeah, what
these
do you
hobbyists?
think, Colleen?
I would think hobbyist.
You think hobbyist? I think everybody's interested in coffee and just watching processes too. I mean, it's not all about people who just want to make stuff. It's also about people who enjoy watching processes. If you enjoy that TV show, how it's made, it'll be kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
Come sit in and get a cup of coffee and watch how it's made and how it's done. And bring your kids. I mean, I used to love going to Krispy Kreme as a kid because they had that conveyor belt and they had the dough and then it got pushed out and then it went on this conveyor and it flipped into this fat oil and then it flipped again and got fried
The
on
icing.
and then the icing hit it and then they took that thing off and put it in on your thing and it was like, whoa, that's so cool. And then that donut was delicious. So Colleen limits me on those.
So if this was because this isn't for general contractors. This isn't anything.
Well,
any
I
kind
disagree.
of lumber.
Yeah,
I think general
I-
contractors would do great with it because here's the thing. You could come in and say, hey, I'm building a house and I need some really unique wood that is like we want to put some beams in their living room. I was like, we can mill you beams. Tell me
Or a really
what
cool
size.
mantle or
Yeah, or if you want a custom mantle for your house, it's like, yeah, we can mill up a mantle, or we can, we're reclaiming wood too. So we're also taking a lot of reclaim. We have a ton of American chestnut I just went up to South Carolina to get, and that's a really cool story too because I met an awesome guy there, an old timer that's been in the industry for a long time. And he was telling me the whole history behind the American chestnut and why it doesn't exist anymore today in the market. And anyway, so we're going to have tons of that type of wood. So yes, general contractors, yeah, absolutely, because homeowners want these unique pieces in their houses that are that you're incorporating elements of the outside to the inside, bringing natural woods into even apartments. I mean, we'll have the ability that if you're in an apartment and you want to add some life to your apartment, you could come in, pick you a slab and say, hey, I want to cut that down to 3 foot and I'm going to buy those set of legs. So we're going to have, you could actually build your own table, come in, throw some screws on it, and you take it home and build your own coffee table or a side table, and you could do that all inside of the store.
Now, between Holtz doing this podcast here, having a family with 11 kids, and your most kind of ambitious startup, how do you manage your time? And not only time, but like you kind of alluded to a little bit, your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this can be very frustrating, and sometimes having people. And you said, you work with your boys. And your boys are not, professional, experienced, contractors. Like you're having to kind of help them along with it. I mean, personally, for me, I don't think I could do that at all. How do you? And this is also kind of for Colleen too. How do you manage that to stay sane, to stay productive, and then I guess to keep moving forward more than anything?
Number one, I'm not sane. So
it's definitely crazy.
yeah, I'm absolutely. I mean, nobody does this type of stuff. Number one, nobody has 11 kids, and then does it the way that we do it. We just are definitely outside of the box. How do you do it? I think
He
we
lives on coffee. No.
we are very intentional about our mornings. Colleen and I get together first thing in the morning, and we start planning our day. And I keep a running list. I have a list for every single department of our life. It's like I have a list for our home, and I have a list for Holtz and marketing, and name it, I've got a list for it.
Which
And
list is bigger?
business is always bigger on my side, and
Exactly.
Colleen is always adding stuff into my list all the time. And so we'll talk about the day, and so we try to schedule the day, and I try to get as much done as possible. So it's like I'm taking all of those lists and I'm concatenating them in my mind, and I'm like, okay, I can pull this. All right, while they're there, they're going to grab this and this and this because they'll need that over here when they go back here, and then I've got to jump on this call, so I'll do that while I'm driving here, and it's just you're just knocking off your punch list. Now the emotion side of it, that can be difficult. Like early on, I was building Colleen wanted a specific shop counter for this lumber mill. She's like, it's got to be cool, and I'd like you to build it. And I'm not a handy wood. Wood is not my specialty. I love wood, but I'm learning. I'm learning
the work
it.
is
Yeah,
not yours.
yeah.
Specialty.
And so I'm like, okay, I can do this. I'm I'm confident in myself. I can do this. And I Googled the height of a shop counter, and she wanted it to
I
have
wanted it to be a higher shop counter because it's going to be, the guys are going to be working this counter. I didn't want it to be this low little shop counter, so I wanted it to be specific. But
So I found all these cool old poplar boards in a barn, and I started cutting them all down and making it to the right height. And it took me forever just to get the measurements because I drew it all out myself, and then I put it up. Of course, the boys are helping me. Jacob's in there a good bit, helping me plane all the boards and take them all down to what we need. And he's giving me advice. And then we get it set up, and I'm satisfied. I'm like, all right, this is good. Colleen comes in, and she's like, it's too tall. And I'm like, what? It's too tall? What do you mean it's too tall? Look.
And so I stand there and I'm like, hand me a receipt. And he couldn't even like reach.
It was too deep and it was too tall. And so I had to actually
You had
tear
to go
the whole
through,
thing
cut it down.
And then, so the problem is Colleen's not around all the time, so I just keep
Because I'm
moving.
very busy too.
I keep moving forward. I like, well, I gotta go. So then I'm finally getting to a point. So we tear it down, rebuild it, and we're getting to a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to start staining it.
And this
so
was at like midnight, and I crash at
you probably
night.
shouldn't work at midnight. I don't think that's a safe time to work. I was just talking to a buddy of mine. And
So he worked till
off his thumb.
through midnight.
I didn't cut off my thumb, but he cut off his. Okay, go ahead.
Well, you're gonna have to cut that.
No, you don't have to cut that out.
I didn't hear that, but I know that
Anyways,
Mike heard it. I'll have to find out
I
what they
woke
said.
up the next morning and he's like, "Hey, come look at the shop counter." And I went and I looked and I'm like, "Oh." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "There's like 4 different colors in this whole counter. Like you had a counter color, you had, I mean, it was very colorful." And I was like, "I was thinking we were gonna go lighter. What happened?" I went to bed. We had a plan. You said it was gonna be lighter. What happened? Well, I found this dark color. I thought it would look good. And I'm like,
That's all she said. And then I'm like, because I stayed up well past midnight staining every single, like,
Little
there were like
slats.
70 of these little slats that were going into it, and I stayed up all night, and I was exhausted. So when she came out and told me she didn't like it, emotions are hard to control. Emotions are hard to control. But we work through them, and the end result is always something that we're both very satisfied with. But it takes a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of engaging conversation.
Well, to finish this up, we've actually had a number of emails asking basically the exact same question, and that is, when is this place going to open up?
"Oh goodness."
June 17th.
I
June
say
17th.
don't put a date on him, and then just work hard, and it'll happen.
She
when
keeps
it's
telling me
supposed
to not set a
happen.
date because date just, it creates stress. But date to me creates pressure, and I work really well under pressure, and I can get things done faster if I set a date. So that's why there's been so many dates set. June 17th. June 17th. It's going to happen June
Hopefully.
17th. Yeah.
Well, whenever it opens, I'm sure we will be sure to tell everyone.
You're not going to want
Yes,
to miss
and
out.
They're not
Everybody
going to want to
come
miss.
see
We've
us.
got another surprise that we'll be talking about a little bit more for the opening. We don't want to spoil it now, but definitely some fun things in store.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be cool.
Well, thanks, guys, and have a good day.